My name is David, and I thought I knew everything about my life. I thought I knew my wife Sarah, our routines, our secrets. But that Tuesday afternoon in October changed everything I believed about the woman I'd been married to for 12 years. I was supposed to be in Chicago until Thursday, closing the Morrison deal that had consumed my thoughts for months. But sometimes life throws you curveballs when you least expect them. The client moved our meeting up by 2 days, and suddenly I found myself driving home on a crisp autumn afternoon, eager to surprise Sarah with an early return. The house looked peaceful from the outside. Our 2-story colonial sat quietly among the maple trees, their leaves painting the yard in brilliant reds and golds. Sarah's car was in the driveway, along with another vehicle I didn't recognize, a black BMW with gym equipment visible through the rear window. My stomach tightened slightly. Sarah had mentioned hiring a personal trainer, something about getting back in shape after her recent bout with depression, but seeing evidence of this stranger in our space felt oddly invasive. I parked quietly and grabbed my briefcase, planning to slip in through the front door and surprise her. Maybe I'd catch her mid-workout, all sweaty and determined, and we could celebrate my early return with dinner at that Italian place she loved. Simple plans. Innocent expectations. The front door was unlocked, which wasn't unusual for Sarah during the day. I stepped inside, immediately noticing how different the house felt. The living room furniture had been pushed aside, creating an open space in the center of the room. Yoga mats, resistance bands, and water bottles were scattered around. The air smelled different too, not just the usual vanilla candles Sarah loved, but something else. Something clinical, almost medical. I could hear voices upstairs. Sarah's voice, definitely, but strained in a way I'd never heard before. There was urgency in her tone, almost desperation. Then a man's voice, calm and authoritative, giving what sounded like instructions. My heart began racing as my imagination filled in the blanks my rational mind refused to process. Breathe through it, Sarah. You're doing great. Just a little more pressure here. The man's voice was professional, clinical even, but in my state of mind, it sounded intimate. Threatening. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step creating a small creak that seemed thunderous in the quiet house. Part of me wanted to call out, to announce my presence, but something held me back. Maybe it was the tone of the conversation I was overhearing, or maybe it was the primal fear that every married person carries in the deepest corners of their heart, the fear of betrayal. I can feel the tension releasing, Sarah's voice drifted down the hallway. It's working. Oh God, it's actually working. My hand trembled as I reached for the bedroom door handle. 12 years of marriage, 12 years of trust, 12 years of believing I knew the woman I shared my life with. Was it all about to crumble behind this door? I pushed the door open just wide enough to see inside, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. What I saw made my blood run cold, but not for the reasons I had expected. Sarah was lying on our bed, but she wasn't in the compromising position my paranoid mind had conjured. She was on her stomach, fully clothed in workout gear, with what appeared to be some kind of medical device attached to her lower back. The man standing beside her wasn't the muscled gym rat I had imagined, but a middle-aged professional in medical scrubs, holding what looked like a tablet computer and monitoring equipment. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was Sarah's legs. My wife, who had been confined to a wheelchair for the past 8 months following a devastating car accident, was moving her legs. Actually moving them. Her left foot was flexing and pointing in response to the electrical stimulation device attached to her spine. The neural pathway is responding better than we hoped, the man in scrubs was saying, making notes on his tablet. The experimental treatment is showing real promise. How does that feel, Sarah? I can feel it, she whispered, and I could hear tears in her voice. I can actually feel my leg again, Dr. Martinez. I stood frozen in the doorway, trying to process what I was witnessing. Sarah had told me the doctors said she would never walk again. She had made me promise to accept our new reality, to stop looking for miracle cures and false hopes. She had insisted that the experimental treatments were too risky, too expensive, too uncertain. She had made peace with the wheelchair, or so she told me. But here she was, secretly undergoing some kind of revolutionary therapy in our bedroom, with a doctor I had never heard of, using equipment that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. And she was responding. Her body was responding. "Why are we keeping this from David again?" Dr. Martinez asked, adjusting something on the device. Sarah's response made my knees weak. "Because if this doesn't work, I don't want to break his heart again. He's already sacrificed so much for me. If I get his hopes up, and then—" She couldn't finish the sentence. I realized I was witnessing the most beautiful deception of my life. My wife wasn't cheating on me. She was trying to walk again, in secret, to protect me from potential disappointment. The woman I thought I knew completely had hidden depths of courage and selflessness that I was only now beginning to understand. But as I watched Dr. Martinez make more adjustments to the device, and saw Sarah's right leg begin to show signs of movement too, I realized there was more to this story. Equipment like this didn't come cheap, and experimental treatments weren't covered by insurance. Where was the money coming from? How long had this been going on? And why did Dr. Martinez keep looking nervously toward the window, as if he was expecting someone? Something bigger was happening here, something that went far beyond a secret medical treatment. I quietly backed away from the bedroom door, my mind reeling with questions that demanded answers. If Sarah was undergoing experimental treatment, where was the money coming from? Our insurance had denied coverage for anything beyond basic physical therapy, and I knew our savings account couldn't support anything that looked as sophisticated as what I'd just witnessed. I made my way downstairs, moving like a ghost through my own house. In Sarah's study, I began looking for clues. Her laptop was open on the desk, password protected, but I knew she used our anniversary date for everything. As the screen unlocked, my world shifted again. Email after email from something called the Meridian Research Institute. Clinical trial agreements. Payment schedules. And then, buried in a folder labeled Hope, I found documents that made my blood run cold. Sarah wasn't just a patient in this experimental treatment. She was patient zero in a human trial for a revolutionary spinal cord stimulation device. The compensation? $2 million. But it got worse. Much worse. As I scrolled through the correspondence, I discovered that Dr. Martinez wasn't just any researcher. He was a neurosurgeon who had been stripped of his medical license 2 years ago for conducting unauthorized human experiments. The Meridian Research Institute wasn't a legitimate medical facility. It was a front operation funded by a pharmaceutical company that had been banned from clinical trials in the United States. My wife, my beautiful brave wife, had essentially sold herself as a human guinea pig to an underground medical research operation. And she was doing it for us, to pay off the crushing medical debt from her original accident, to secure our financial future, and maybe, just maybe, to walk again. The sound of footsteps upstairs brought me back to the present. I quickly closed the laptop and moved to the kitchen, trying to look casual as I processed what I had learned. Sarah was risking her life, possibly making her condition worse, all while lying to me to protect my feelings. But then I found the final piece of the puzzle, and it changed everything I thought I understood about the situation. Hidden in Sarah's jewelry box, underneath a tray of earrings she never wore, was a burner phone. The call log showed dozens of calls to a number I didn't recognize, but when I Googled it, my heart stopped. It belonged to FBI agent Jennifer Collins, Biomedical Crimes Division. Sarah wasn't just a victim of an illegal medical experiment. She was working with federal agents to expose the entire operation. The personal trainer story, the secrecy, even her depression over the past months. It was all part of an elaborate undercover operation designed to bring down a network of rogue medical researchers who were preying on desperate patients across the country. My wife, who I thought needed my protection and care, was actually an undercover federal informant putting her life on the line to save other victims. The experimental treatment was real, but it was also evidence being gathered for what would likely become the biggest medical fraud case in decades. As I heard Dr. Martinez's voice getting louder upstairs, mentioning something about the final phase and tomorrow's procedure, I realized that whatever was happening was coming to a climax. And I had no idea if my wife was in danger or if everything was going according to plan. I put the burner phone back exactly where I found it and crept toward the stairs again. This time, I could hear Dr. Martinez more clearly, and his tone had changed dramatically. Gone was the professional, caring physician I had observed earlier. Now he sounded urgent, almost frantic. The timeline has moved up, Sarah. My contacts say the FDA is getting suspicious. We need to complete the final phase of testing tonight, not tomorrow. Tonight. Sarah's voice carried a note of panic that made my chest tighten. But Agent Collins said we had until Friday. The backup team isn't in position yet. Agent Collins doesn't understand the pressure we're under. The pharmaceutical executives are getting nervous. If we don't deliver results tonight, they're going to shut down the entire operation and disappear. This could be our only chance to get the evidence we need. I pressed myself against the wall, realizing that I was overhearing a conversation that could get all of us killed. Sarah wasn't just helping the FBI gather evidence, she was in active danger, and something had gone wrong with the plan. The final phase involves a surgical procedure, Dr. Martinez continued, and I could hear medical equipment being moved around. I'll need to implant a more advanced device directly into your spinal cord. It's more invasive than anything we've done so far. How much more invasive? Sarah asked, and I could hear the fear in her voice. There's a 30% chance of permanent paralysis above the injury site. 15% chance of other complications. My wife was about to undergo a potentially fatal surgery as part of an FBI sting operation, and she was making this decision alone, without me, to protect people she had never met. The courage required for that choice was staggering, but it was also terrifying. I heard Dr. Martinez's phone ring, and his conversation with whoever was on the other end made my blood freeze. Yes, sir. Tonight. I understand the stakes. Yes, she's cooperated fully, but what do you mean, loose ends? I see. No, she doesn't suspect anything. Yes, sir. I'll take care of it after the procedure. In that moment, I realized that Sarah might not be working with Dr. Martinez to expose the operation. She might be his next victim, and the FBI might not even know what was happening in our bedroom. The Agent Collins she had been communicating with might not exist, or might be compromised, or might be part of an even larger conspiracy. I had to make a choice: call the police and potentially blow whatever legitimate operation might be in progress, or find a way to protect Sarah myself without knowing who was friend or enemy in this deadly game. But first, I needed to figure out what was really happening here. Was my wife a hero working with law enforcement, or was she a victim who had been manipulated into believing she was helping catch criminals? And most importantly, how much time did I have before Dr. Martinez decided to eliminate his loose end? The sound of surgical equipment being unpacked upstairs told me I was running out of time fast. I made a decision that would either save my wife's life or destroy everything we had built together. I walked upstairs, opened the bedroom door, and stepped inside. "Hello, honey," I said calmly, setting down my briefcase. "Dr. Martinez, I presume?" Both Sarah and the doctor spun around, shock written across their faces. But Sarah's expression quickly changed to something else, relief mixed with resignation. "David," she whispered. "You weren't supposed to be home until Thursday." "Plans changed," I replied, walking over to kiss her forehead. "Just like a lot of other things, apparently." Dr. Martinez reached for something in his medical bag, but I was faster. "I wouldn't do that, doctor. Or should I say, Agent Rodriguez." The man froze, his hand halfway to his bag. Sarah's eyes went wide with confusion. "That's right, sweetheart," I said, sitting on the edge of the bed next to her. "Your Dr. Martinez is actually FBI agent Carlos Rodriguez, and this entire operation has been designed to catch me." The room fell silent, except for the humming of the medical equipment. Sarah stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. "You see, Sarah, while you thought you were helping the FBI catch rogue medical researchers, they were actually using you to gather evidence against your loving husband. It turns out that David Morrison, the businessman you married 12 years ago, has been running one of the largest medical fraud operations in the country. The Meridian Research Institute? That's mine. Those illegal experiments. I've been funding them for years. Agent Rodriguez slowly raised his hands, but kept his eyes on me. Sarah's accident wasn't an accident, was it, David? I smiled sadly. No, it wasn't. Sarah had discovered some irregularities in our finances. She was getting too close to the truth about my business operations. The car accident was necessary. But then she started showing such courage, such determination to recover, that I realized she would make the perfect test subject for our spinal cord research. Ironic, isn't it? Sarah's face had gone pale. The experimental treatment. It's real? Oh, it's very real. And it works. You're going to walk again, darling. But not because of the FBI's operation. Because you're married to the man who developed the technology. Tonight's procedure will complete your recovery. You'll be able to walk, run, dance, and you'll also be the star witness in a case that will never go to trial, because there won't be enough evidence left to prosecute anyone. Agent Rodriguez reached for his weapon, but I was prepared for that too. I wouldn't, Agent. Your backup team has been delayed. And the device attached to Sarah's spine can deliver a fatal electrical surge with the push of a button. The same button that will complete her healing, or end her life. Your choice. David, Sarah said quietly, the burner phone. Agent Collins is my business partner, I finished. Jennifer Collins isn't FBI, she's my pharmaceutical contact. Every conversation you thought you were having with law enforcement was actually you reporting directly to me about the progress of your own treatment. The stunning revelation hung in the air like a toxic cloud. My wife had been trying to save other victims while unknowingly working for the very person who had victimized her. She had been courageous, selfless, and completely manipulated by the man who claimed to love her. But here's the twist that no one saw coming, not even me. Sarah smiled. David, she said calmly, I've known who you really are for 2 years. And Agent Rodriguez? He really is FBI. The experimental treatment is real, and it has worked. But what you don't know is that every conversation in this room for the past 6 months has been recorded by devices I've been wearing. Your entire confession was just broadcast live to a federal task force waiting outside. As if on cue, I heard the sound of vehicles surrounding our house. You see, darling, Sarah continued, moving her legs with surprising strength, while you thought you were manipulating me, I was actually manipulating you. The accident wasn't your plan. It was mine. I needed a way to get close to your operation without arousing suspicion. Sometimes the best way to catch a monster is to let him think he's already one. The bedroom door burst open, and real federal agents flooded in. As they handcuffed me, I realized I had been outplayed by the most brilliant woman I had ever known. She was walking within a month. I'll be walking to the electric chair.